Mm-hmm.
You know how it is.
Oh, it looked really nice.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the zoo. The minions with me this evening are Adam
Hello.
and JenTMaxi.
Hello.
How are both of you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
I mean, I admit I was antsy this morning because of the news, but I talked to my buddy Trucker about the shit that went down with Trump, and he explained what that shit was about. Because I kind of knew that it looked wrong, but I'm going to be honest, I don't know your legal system. It is actually really advanced. Like, it is really complicated. So you do have to kind of know what you're talking about, but nothing about it looked right. And I just wanted to know I wasn't crazy for seeing that. You know how it is.
You like the gate opened up and you just went fucking full bore.
Sorry.
and I was gonna make a joke. I was like, "Oh, the news this morning? You mean that pig guy died in Canada?"
Did he die? Good.
That's good. I think
I'm assuming that you're meaning the cannibal rapist farmer.
No, I don't know, because
Herd
Sora was explaining it to me the other day. Where
yeah, he killed.
He was like, she said he just brought the bodies there. He owned the farm and he let the people dump shit there.
That was
some shit like that.
His claim was, if we're thinking about the same person, because it was,
and he was supposed to be a little
Pickerman or some shit like that, right?
Yeah,
Pickerman. So he claims that he didn't do anything, but he allowed people to do things by bringing whatever they wanted, because pigs will eat anything, and dropping them to his swine herd.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of evidence, like the fact that one of the people that was a would-be victim came running into town with the handcuff that he had the key of in his pocket. As he chased them down, she went to the hospital because she had been assaulted. He originally was trying to find her, realized he was bleeding too much because before she was able to escape, she stabbed him.
Huh.
So he went to the hospital. They went to the same fucking hospital. And yeah, it was found out that he had the key to the cuffs that she was actively wearing in his pant pocket at the hospital. And then a bunch of things started being found out. So he wasn't just someone who allowed organized crime in the area to use his swine farm. He was actively engaged in drugs, assaults, murders.
They also found a lot of the body parts. Like, as much as the rumors are that he fed them to the pigs, which he didn't do all of them. So, like, they were finding hands. They did find a head.
Yep.
Oh shit.
He was doing the proper Dahmer shit, where it is Dahmer. He was doing the proper Dahmer shit, where he was keeping certain body parts.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I could
his later activities.
Like, one of the rumors with him is that he had links to higher profile people. And that's one of those ones where I don't know. You can never really know, because you'll never know if it's a high profile person. Just kind of like Epstein list. We got to see the list, but we didn't get to see the whole list. The truth is, we'll never see the whole list.
At least not for a good long while. But I realized that I forgot to do the normal and of course, once again, it is a Friday, so I'm going to keep it for this evening, Sanguine. And I'm doing extremely well. I'm just quickly finishing up slicing up a few components for my dinner as I chat with you fine folks.
Sanguine, I have a dumb question.
Okay.
Mostly because of a commercial. So they used a large tomato in this one, so I know where they went with that. And then I realized the only tomatoes I really buy, for the most part, are cherry tomatoes, or like grape tomatoes. What are the chances that I cut one of those fuckers in half? They actually have their own seeds.
Oh, you're trying to grow a tomato plant?
Yeah, I just want to try it. I managed with lettuce. I've got 3 lettuce plants that are doing really well, actually.
Trying to remember if cherry tomatoes are a proper varietal or whether they are
I should look that
juvenile tomatoes or whether they're one of the ones that ends. I think they're a proper varietal, and I think they are able to be planted properly by just collecting the seed.
Okay.
Now, it will be difficult because they tend to be difficult to make sure that they take properly. Let me quickly double check though, because like I said, I'm not 100% sure whether they're one of the strange varietals that's technically sterile or whether they're one of the
I think it might be a hit and a miss. Like I get the feeling that I could cut some in half and get some seeds, and I could cut some in half and not get any. I get what you mean.
Well, it's not that you won't see any seeds, it's whether the seeds will be viable.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the thing about certain... So, you all know seedless watermelons, right?
Yep.
You know how seedless watermelons still have some seeds, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you know that even if you take one of those seeds, you can't grow a fucking watermelon with it?
I can imagine, because they're underdeveloped most of the time.
Well, that's not the reason why. It's because of the genetic sequence for a seedless watermelon. It has tetrasomy. I'm trying to remember which gene or which chromosome it is, but it has a tetrasomal abnormality, which makes it so that it grows far fewer seeds and it is sterile. I'll quickly look that up.
Yeah, I'm glad I asked, because it did seem like one of those things that was like, I might be better off with a bigger tomato.
So, yeah, it is a tetraploidal. So, normal watermelon is a diploidal.
Mm-hmm.
And there are triploidal. And then there's tetraploidal. Oh, sorry. They are the triploidal. So they are a crossbreed of a normal diploidal as well as a tetraploidal parent. And that combination of tetraploidal and diploidal parents leads to a triploidal, and triploidal are sterile.
Okay, that makes sense. I kind of get why they do that, because otherwise somebody like me would just figure out, well, I can just grow my own.
Well, that wasn't the reason for the seedless watermelon. The seedless watermelon, it is
more pleasant.
Because if you have that triploidal, it will have far fewer seeds. The seeds will be far softer, and you'll just be able to eat a nice slice of watermelon without having to spit out a shit ton of seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other ones, like I said, the cherry tomato is a proper varietal, and I believe it can be grown. It was originally a hybrid, but I think it's now become a proper variety. So it should be able to be grown from seeds. Now, your success rate in growing from seeds will vary by person, but
it's also the season. Like if I were to do this, I would probably wait until next year, because if I go with my lettuce as anything to go by, I got a little bit lucky because March was relatively warm, and it was warm enough that I could just tuck my plants into the building. You know, even if it snowed, it was still warm enough out that I wasn't worried about the frost. But if I hadn't planted them that early, they would be just barely sprouting. You know, or if I just planted them now, they'd be too late to do anything with, because I did that with basil last year, and it just took too long. It really does need the feeling of winter turning into spring for them to really kind of get that, now is the time. So if I were to plant one, I'd almost be better off doing it over the winter. Like leave one of my plants out, cut the seed, let it kind of ferment during the winter, and that would probably be the best time to let it gestate during the spring like it's supposed to. There is something to it. Like I know there's something to drying them too. Like
yeah, I would recommend looking up people that grow tomatoes in your area, because there's bound to be some forum where people are going, oh yeah, in order to grow tomatoes in this place, this is the best time to plant it, this is the best time to water it, this is how you do this shit.
How much sun it likes. And
so go through that whole process in order to figure out how best to increase your likelihood of getting a successful harvest. It will take a long while.
I like the experiment. Like, yes, it is off a balcony, but it's kind of neat to see how much you can get away with on your own balcony. Like, flowers are pretty, food is helpful.
Yep.
I live in a communist country.
Yep.
But all the same, I don't think it's a bad idea, because this is stuff that my grandmother did do. And when I was a kid, my mom did do it. It's just gardens are effort. Like, if you're working all the time, I can understand people downsizing to a regular garden, because if you don't have time to spend on those plants, they're just going to die.
Yep. There's certain crops that it makes absolute sense if you are the sort that can garden to grow those crops yourself. There's other crops that it doesn't really make sense. Like, unless you have a fuck ton of land and you can really put in the effort to not just be a gardener, but to be a farmer, it doesn't really make sense to try to grow your own corn. It's cheap as shit to just go and buy an ear of corn. But
if you live in an area, and I'm taking this one from TikTok, Sanguine, because you might have missed it. It is not TikTok. No, it was TikTok. It was shared on X. But if you live in an area where you have trees that grow fruit, like I love Sora's neck of the woods because she's got apples, she's got cherries, she's got pears, all the orchard trees. But I know in the U.S. you have, like, I would love to live in Florida. Well, no, I wouldn't because of the humidity. But the trees, orange trees, lemon trees, lime trees, grapefruit trees. I think you get that in, I don't know how many states do that, but I think a lot of you do.
Trees are an amazing thing because you plant them once.
Yeah.
And then year after year after year after year, they produce. And you just get to go out and you pick them. There's not constant management, which is why I said it makes sense for some crops. If it's a crop that for you to do what you want to do, it's just a small bed of them, and you're doing enough of them that it makes sense without having to do too many of them so that it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, if you want to be able to do your own salad mixes out of 3 types of lettuce, sure, you can grow that at home. If you want a 27 blend of lettuces, buy that shit. Because having 27 fucking different lettuce that you're dealing with, that you have to figure out the proper way of maintaining them, that's going to be a pain in the ass. You won't save money doing that. If you're doing it just because you enjoy gardening, absolutely, enjoy gardening. But if you're trying to garden in order to save money, pick your crops properly.
I kind of went that route. That's kind of where part of my experiment is going with, like, what can I add to this that adds to the salad that makes sense where I'm not doing too much. So 2 of my lettuce, one's a green leaf and one's a red leaf. And then I still have a basil plant because I still had some seeds from last year. So I'm like, okay, well, it's a basic salad. Like, it's not a great salad, but 2 leaves and some basil.
Yep.
Well, that's great. If I add tomatoes to that, that's an epic salad.
Yeah. It's
also to do with the weight. Like, I can only put so much weight on my balcony. So that's part of the experiment. Like, most of my pots are kind of small. I know some people have stuff that's hanging off of it. So I could make something a little bit bigger. but I'd have to wait until next year because now if I were to do anything, it would be stuff that's already been pre-grown. Like if I went to the store and bought a basil plant or a pre-done tomato plant and just replanted it in a bigger planter, yeah, I could do that. But it's not the same as starting from scratch because that's by science.
So
That's the reason when I was, we all started with a bean plant when we were kids, right?
So do you get a lot of space to be able to grow some produce? Or
I actually have a decent sized balcony. Like it's not huge, but it's sheltered a little bit too. And I actually kind of like that because it gives me enough light. Like I get enough in the morning, I get enough at night. But when it comes to our weather, it's been kind of a saving grace because I've seen people across the way, and yes, they have a big lawn, but we live in hail country, and hail would just kill all my lettuce. So just having that cover, all I have to do is just tuck it into the wall, and when it's done, and they're fine. And I can pull them back, and when the sun moves, I can actually move the pot. So if the sun moves a little bit closer to the southeast side, well, I can move them to the southeast side of my balcony. So it's kind of perfect for that.
not bad. And what do you got growing so far?
I've got a red leaf lettuce and I've got a green leaf lettuce. And the red leaf lettuce I got to laugh at because I got that from last year. My mom got me one of the red-headed lettuces that you can kind of keep. So it's a plantable one. And so I kept it over the summer. And, I'd use a leaf or two every once in a while. But when it hit August, it seeded. And I had so many seeds on it that I kept as many as I could. And so they've grown. I've got 2 pots of red leaf lettuce.
Oh, I was about to say, that shit didn't bolt on you because I've grown lettuce in my little hydroponic setup that I have.
Mm-hmm.
But lettuce, if it goes above a certain temperature, it bolts. And the moment that it bolts, it is
seeds.
Virtually inedible.
Yeah. Like you can't eat it, but the seeds are there.
Yeah, and for those who don't know what bolting is the process of a lettuce going from normal growth cycle to it's time to fuck cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it starts popping up its flowers and shit like that for pollination. But when that happens, it produces this extremely thick, milky sap.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes one of the most bitter tastes on the planet.
I was okay with watching it though. Like that was part of the science, was just seeing, okay, well, let's see how long I can keep you. And once it started doing that, I was like, okay, let's keep the seeds. It dried out. It does dry out. You could just shake them off.
So you're still able to use those seeds though, right?
Mm-hmm. I did. They grew.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's not bad. You're looking to plant some tomatoes now?
I want to see if I can. Like, I think that's the next step. It's just because I know people on the other side of the building did it. So I don't know if I'm going to have enough light to do it. But I figure if I start with something like a cherry tomato, it shouldn't be too bad. Because tomatoes they really like a lot of light. But at the same time, you don't want to overdo it. Like, everything has an overkill.
Yep. You want enough light without too much light. Because if you get too much light, it tries to dry out, so you have to water it a fuck ton more.
Mm-hmm.
And certain plants, you can't get certain appearances if you give them too much light. Like, that's how you get the albino asparagus.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh. So is it going to take just a lot of maneuvering to try and keep it in the light?
I actually don't think so, because some of the pots that I saw were like medium-sized pots. And I used to have to carry that for work. So part of my inspiration was what I was doing at work, because we had management who decided to bring in gardening gear in January. And they marked it down a lot by the time summer was relevant. So I was like, well, if I'm going to start learning how to garden, I should do it when things are 50% off. So I bought seeds and a couple of potting plants and some dirt. Just thought I'd, go back to my childhood a little bit, see if I could grow something useful.
Hey, why not?
That is both a strange time to stock up on gardening supplies, but also it makes perfect sense why you'd stock up on gardening supplies then.
It does when you realize that we were run out of BC. So for some reason, BC was sending us our orders, and BC starts summer when everybody else does.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're in the Midwest, summer starts when summer starts. It doesn't start any time beforehand. There's no earliness involved.
Summer tends to start. Well, it depends. Are you talking proper summer or are you talking false summer?
Yeah, I was gonna say because
I would say even
fall,
I would say even just beginner summer, because like when you're starting to plant, especially out where I am, some stuff you can do early. Like if it's a bulb, you can do it early. Like there's nothing wrong with planting a bulb when the ground is still frozen. But for some plants, if you plant it too early, we still have more than just frost. Like we'll have dumps of snow. Oh, yeah. So Sora does get a little bit of this. She does know what I mean because she kept grumbling, Jen, you shut up about snow. We keep getting it. But if you go
That's why I was saying, are you talking false summer or are you talking true summer? Because we've had like 3 false summers this year already.
Yeah. Yeah, I am talking about fall summers. I call them 4th or 5th winters because I'm Canadian.
Yeah, in the area that I'm in, they're known as false summers because it'll get really warm for a couple of days and people will start acting like, oh, it's summer now. And then the next day, it's right back down into the 30s and 40s, and it'll be cold for a little bit, and then it'll pop back up, and then it'll be cold for a bit, and then it'll pop back up. And it takes at least 4 or 5 of them every year before it's, this is summer now.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much. So getting orders from it's like getting orders from Ontario for us, getting them from Vancouver. It's like getting orders from California. They're nice enough people, but they really don't understand that we can't argue with the weather. It does what it wants to. They also controlled our heat. That bothered me a lot because they always seemed to think that we were freezing. And I was like, no, we work really hard. And most of the people who come to the store are still wearing their winter gear. So when you crank the heat, it actually makes people sick.
Yeah, you're like something that drives me crazy at my job as well, because they'll turn on the heat and turn off the AC at specific times. And they always turn on the AC way too fucking late and turn off the heat way too fucking late. But they always turn on the heat way too fucking early. So it's just been extremely toasty, especially since it's a lab that has a fuck ton of instruments. Those instruments pump out heat.
Yo, dude, yeah, I the same with me. I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, I got all these hot fans blowing in my face. Do you think we could turn the AC up a little bit? Like, who the hell wants to work in the heat?
Like, yeah, especially if you are working in that kind of a job, doesn't it revolve around the temperature a little?
Oh yeah, if the instruments get too hot, alarms start sounding.
Yeah.
But also the instruments, it's difficult for them to get too hot because they have a constant pump of liquid nitrogen into them.
That sounds like how to waste money.
They kick out a fuck ton of heat, but they stay nice and cool because liquid nitrogen.
Yeah.
But the entire lab will heat up ridiculously, and they keep on trying to figure out ways to get the lab to not heat up efficiently, but not have to just cool down the lab entirely. So they're always going back through and going, well, we've added about half as many instruments on top of everything that we had. The lab's overheating. Rather than increasing the number of AC units that we have for the building, what if we just do a fuck ton more work that costs a hell of a lot more to add some very interesting ducting to see if we can get the heat to move where we want it to? And I'm just sitting there going, no, give us additional AC. Just blast this building.
Yeah.
It's always
It's
better.
hot.
Hotter.
It's just one of those things where somebody doesn't want to face reality, and I think that's what you're dealing with, is somebody who just doesn't understand that, like, the reality is the thing that's supposed to fish it is this. Until they come up with something that would actually work, that's the one you should go with.
But it keeps on ending up with the lab having ridiculous hot spots. Where you'll walk to one side of the room and it'll be a nice temperature. You walk to another side of the room, it's 88 degrees. The fuck is going on here?
It reminds me of my first Safeway that I worked at. Because the store was probably about 40 or 50 years old. And it was built at that time where they were using the really tiny copper pipes. And the deli department shared their pipes with the meat department. And you can clearly see what's the problem there, because that's a hell of a load for really tiny copper pipes. And so on a regular, every 3 months, we would have backup. They'd have to bring in the people that clean up anything that has a grease tray, which we kept most of the grease. Most of it didn't go down, but it doesn't matter. That's the nature of that kind of machine. It goes down, and then it clogs with the meat department. So every 3 months, we would end up with a lake of brownish, yellowish water all the way down from the deli department cooler, the deli department, the meat department, all the way down the meat department floor. And it would touch all those fridges all the way down to the freezer. And
oh my God.
The only thing that caused them to fix that was when the area got flooded, because everyone got fucked and everyone got some insurance from it.
They weren't going to hear what sounds like a jet engine, probably. I'm just torching up the fish that I'm eating for dinner.
Fire! Fun.
Whoa! Wait, what kind of... Wait, did we already ask? What are you cooking for dinner? Did we?
No. But what I'm having for dinner is some glazed trout that is being served up with a quick pickle salad and rice. And then my drinks are going to be sake and Asahi. And then I'm trying to decide whether I want to do just a normal Japanese whiskey or whether I want to do a cocktail. What do you guys think? Cocktail or standard whiskey?
I don't know. What kind of cocktail?
The
old-fashioned.
type of cocktail that I'd be making is probably going to be some lychee liqueur. Then I'm trying to decide whether I want to add a little bit of elderflower liqueur or whether I want to add some elderflower soju, a bit of Japanese whiskey, and probably a dash or two of chocolate bitters.
Oh shit! And the other one was what? Whiskey and Coke.
The simple whiskey was just going to be a finger of whiskey. Because I have a really good couple of Japanese whiskeys that I could serve up with it.
Well, if you make the first one, I want to see a picture of it.
Oh, there's always a picture of it every week.
Hmm.
Every week on Wednesday, all my food and all my drinks. And
Where do you find them?
on my food porn.
Yeah, where do you find your food porn?
Let me grab the link for that because it is Aceberg's Kitchen on X. And the link is, one moment, let me
It's in a special folder, but it's hidden.
and snag it. And
And you open it, all of a sudden you hear wow, 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 wow.
there we go.
Food porn. And yeah, apparently it's S&M food porn because he likes to toast him a bit.
I'm just making sure that the tuna has a nice crispy skin. So giving the skin a little bit of a torch as well. And then going to brush a little bit more of my marinade on. Or my glaze, rather, on. And then give it another torch so that I get this nice, sticky, caramelized glaze on it.
It is pork belly, right?
This one's tuna.
Tuna. That's right. You said tuna.
Yep.
Oh, that makes sense. You're candying it a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah. I think he was talking about the pork belly with the spice.
Yeah, he did before. I
pork belly with the spice that I was talking about earlier. Yeah, that turned out amazing. It was ridiculously indulgent and damn near sinful.
Was it you said there was a taco spice, right?
No, that was with the spicy seasoning that came in the pack.
Yeah, that makes sense for bacon. It's not bacon, but
yeah, it was minced pork belly that then I wrapped around a bit of mozzarella cheese. So think mozzarella sticks that then have fried pork belly wrapped around them. That's what that dish is. It's mozzarella cheese cut into sticks that then you wrap in pork belly. Well, you can wrap in pork, you can wrap in chicken, you can wrap in anything. I did pork belly for that one. And then you take that, deep fry, or bread it up, deep fry it. It gets super crispy and delicious. Here, I can just pull up a picture of it so I can show you guys.
Geez, let me just show you.
Your fish does sound good too. Like, I'm not a fish eater, but I can appreciate what you're doing with it. I had to make it at work too. I had nightmares over the salmon because I knew how expensive salmon was, and like, Jen, don't you dare make that dry.
Hey, that's what I had for dinner.
Yeah.
Okay, so
salmon nigiri.
Let me display this picture, and this is the pork dish that I was talking about, which is there we go.
All right, I see what you mean.
Yo.
So, yeah, that's pork belly wrapped around ooey gooey mozzarella cheese that then gets pankoed and deep fried. I did it with a quick coleslaw, then some sauteed mushrooms and broccolini in a savory sauce, on top of some garlic confit rice, 2 shoes of Ryaku's Wandering Poet sake, an Asahi, and then that was a Cayenne 8-year whiskey. And it was absolutely delicious. It was the first thing that I experimented with when I got my meat grinder set up. I decided, fuck it, let's see how the meat grinder works, and might as well try one of these seasoning packs as well.
Why not?
It looks fucking good, dude.
Yeah, it does.
And like I said, it's one of those things that it gives a absolutely amazing flavor to it. But it also is something that most people, you know, some people, you can have really good food, you put it in front of them, and they're going, this is weird, I don't know how I feel about this. Because it's just something that they haven't really experienced. I'm pretty sure you could slap those pork sticks in front of anyone. Go, it's pork and mozzarella cheese, and they'll fucking eat it.
Oh yeah,
dude. I'm gonna draw it, and it's gonna be the food served at the at the arcade.
Nice.
Because I mean, it does look like something that you'd have. Like, it looks like if Bar Rescue came in, and they're like, "What? You're serving boring old mozzarella sticks? No, you're gonna do this recipe, and you're gonna serve up these." What would be a dip that you would put with it?
Oh, dips are really easy with those because you can do a bunch of different types of dips, swapping them out for however you want to season them. So, if you want to do more Asian style spicing, which is what I did for these, then you do mayo, some shoyu, a bit of sriracha or a togarashi powder.
Ooh,
Mix that all together. If you want to add a little bit of zestiness to it, put in some lime. Mix that all together. Dip those in that. Absolutely delicious. If you want to go for Italian spicing in those, which you can do, then you can make a marinara or romesco.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Dip those in that. If you want to do more of like a kind of Midwestern flavor, you can flavor up your pork mince that way. Do the exact same meal, and then you could do like a spiced ranch dip.
Yo. Dude, I'm telling you, you're the first person I'm calling when I fucking.
Hell, you could even.
I swear.
You could even throw it into the Mexican lot. Like if you did that with the taco seasoning and then did something with like a queso cheese.
Oh, the one that I would do with if I was going Hispanic with it,
yeah,
the dip would 100% be a roast pepper crema.
Okay.
Would you be able to do a successful, like, okay, not so much that it's like lacking on the flavor, right? It has a taste or a flavor, but the spice was it Calman or Talman or something like
Cardamom?
that? Carmen San Diego? No, the
Cardamom.
The flavor level.
The flavor level?
Yeah, isn't there like like a capsian level or something like that?
The you mean the level for capsaicin, the Scoville?
Scoville, yes, the Scoville. Really high up there, but it still you can still taste the flavor.
Right? Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely. I could easily do that.
Oh, bro, dude. Oh wait, yeah, for a dip.
You want another thing that you could do with these? So do the exact same pork thing, but in the seasoning for the pork, add in some really good hot sauce, like a really good buffalo sauce. So it has buffalo sauce mixed into the pork, so you get that nice spice. You could dip that in a blue cheese as the dipping sauce. You could dip it into a ranch. You could do a buffalo dip with that.
I'm not gonna lie, I'd probably, double dip. I know that's bad.
Yep.
But if you're gonna give me a spicy barbecue and then a blue cheese type of
Blue cheese is I get you, Adam. It's such a really easy one to miss if you're not a big fan of it, because I'm not either. It's like if it's the smallest amount, I understand because it does enhance the flavor, but the minute it's too much, it's like all I taste is feet.
Yeah, no. A little bit of it. I mean, even I would do that with ranch too. I prefer blue cheese. I don't know why, but no, yeah. That just sounds like something like, oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's also why
really easy to dial up the flavor, dial back the flavor. And like I said, you can do them with any nationality. Hell, you want to do them extremely English, then you can do these.
Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire.
Oh no, go more English. You do a mayo and HP sauce.
Oh wait, mayo and what?
HP sauce.
What is HP? Like health points?
It's a barbecue sauce.
Brown sauce. Think it is kind of like English A1, only thicker.
Yeah.
And
you
it's
say
used
like the letter H and the letter P?
Yes. Like health points.
I'm right now gonna shoot my buddy from jolly old England. I'm gonna ask him like, hey dude, you know what HP sauce is? And I'm gonna wake him up and he's gonna be really mad.
But
it's actually pretty good. Like, don't get me wrong, if you have a good steak, don't ruin a good steak, but it's a decent sauce too.
Like I said, the way that the Brits do it is they don't put that on steak. They put it on sausages, they put it on pork, and they're right in that. Adding that to pork, adding that to sausages, hell yes. Dipping
I like
in that sauce, absolutely.
Wait, did you say it's like A1 sauce?
It's like a thicker
I like
A1.
it. I like A1 sauce. That's good.
Yeah, it's like a thicker A1. So like I said, you can do very English by adding some of the right herbs into the pork mince. And then you mix together the HP and a bit of mayo. You dip those bastards in the HP mayo sauce. Oh, yes.
Okay, I might be onto that.
With kind of a similar idea is tonkatsu sauce is kind of like Japanese HP sauce. If you know, so those that know what HP sauce is, tonkatsu sauce kind of seems like it's the Asian version when you taste them, because again, it's a fairly salty but slightly sweet and tangy sauce. Still that deep brown color. You can do the same thing with tonkatsu sauce and mayo. Keep them Japanese.
I feel like low-key you're telling the Hitalia joke where England goes to visit Japan and he teaches them how to make a stew. So then Japan turns around and makes it a hot pot.
Nice.
Wait, what is it?
One of my favorite styles of Japanese cooking is there's an entire school of cooking that is foreign dishes, but they aren't actually foreign dishes. They are dishes that Japanese people went, this is fucking amazing, let's change it and make it more Japanese. Yeah. And they're amazing. Yeah. I love them because that's what Japanese croquettes are.
Yeah.
Japanese croquettes are a Japanese person had French croquettes and they went, these are really good. You guys know what croquettes are, right?
I do. Yep.
So, in case anyone doesn't, croquette, mashed potato wrapped around cheese, breaded, deep fried deliciousness.
Ooh.
There is one other type, and I've never had the guts to do it because I can tell that it's a technique. I think the Italians have a rice version of it.
That's arancini.
Yeah.
But Japanese croquettes, the Japanese had French croquettes. They went.
Yes.
The
These are
Japanese don't have a rice variation of this?
Oh no, they went potato.
Oh, okay.
The Japanese croquette is they went. French croquettes are delicious. We want meat in them though. So, what if we did minced beef or any other type of minced meat? We flavor that up. We saute it with whatever the fuck else we want. Most often, it's with onion. Then mix that in throughout the mashed potatoes that we just made. Then bread these, fry them, and eat that. So, have you ever had, when you were younger, those little fried mashed potato things?
Yep.
I can't remember what they're called.
Tots. Or tater tots.
Bro,
Those tater tots are different.
Okay.
I'm talking about the ones that are mashed potatoes on the inside, rather than grated
Hash browns.
potatoes.
Okay.
Tater tots.
Oh,
and
okay,
hash
yeah.
browns are the grated potatoes.
They were like French fries, but they were really mushy in the middle.
Yeah, they were mashed potatoes in the middle.
Yeah, we didn't get those. I'm sad.
It's like those, but then there's meat mixed in.
Okay.
They're delicious.
Well, it's like what they did to the omelet, like the omerice. I giggle every time I see it, like, because that's totally a French omelet on top. That is technique, though. Like, just the French omelet alone is technique. I'm like, the fried rice part is easy. It is actually folding it right. I got a joke with Satsu about that because he's really big about making ramen, but I want to see him make an omerice because that is actually, it is a technique.
Oh yeah.
Not everyone does it the same either. Like, I've seen some where it's a thin fold, and I've seen some where it's a thick souffle egg, and I'm like, I think I'd like the thinner fold, but
it depends on what area you're in, because it's a regional thing in Japan.
Yeah.
Where some regions do a very thin omelet, which it's almost like a crepe level thinness to the omelet.
Yeah.
And then they'll enfold the entire omelet in it. Other places do a very thin set layer of the omelet, but then they have kind of a loose scramble and cheese inside the omelet, so that when you place it on top, you slit it and it opens up, spilling the very loose scramble and cheese over top of the entire plate.
Okay. Fancy.
Yeah. And it is entirely a matter of which area you're in, which one you'll get, and which area the cook was from, which one you'll get.
Yeah, that's why I think Satsu should take that one on. Like, as much as he'd be like, Jen, you're a bitch.
Oh, there. So the first type, the one where it's a very thin omelet, that one's really easy. I've done that one several times. The one where it's the kind of French scramble inside an omelet, that one is a bitch and a half. Because what you're doing is you're moving enough of the omelet around that it's getting light and fluffy scramble, a loose, light and fluffy scramble, while allowing the bottom to still set.
Yeah.
Which is really fucking hard. But once you get that technique down, oh god, it's an insane flex of your cooking skill.
Yep.
And it's kind of like it increases your cooking skills, but it also increases your charisma skills because
Well,
yeah.
he's really into his game. He's so into it.
It's definite presentation skill.
Yeah.
There's something about having that very light, delicate looking omelet, then you slit it and it immediately just pours the unctuous, cheesy scramble over top of the rest of the omu rice.
It's an impressive skill,
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's kind of why I was going there with that kind of commentary, because it's not that I don't think it's I don't take it lightly. It's kind of like my otter picture. Like when I did the otter picture, part of it was like, yes, I'm trying to figure out how to draw an otter, but I was also calling myself out on my drawing skills because the time zone for that drawing has so many pieces to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, Jen, if you can master this level of drawing clothing, then bitch, you can take on stuff from modern day, because that's part of the reason I go there. Like, if you could take on something that, yes, it is a difficult thing, you're probably going to learn more techniques than just one by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a dick move, but I'm his friend, Like, I actually do think Satsu has a lot of really good cooking skills, so I think he could do it.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, hold on. Where did we make the jump from?
It's the challenge aspect. Just like she's challenging herself by drawing the 17th and 18th century clothing, she's challenging Satsu to do a meal that is entirely in technique rather than in the ingredients or anything else. It is entirely get the technique right, and it's simple, it's delicious. If you fuck up the technique, you fucked it up. And there's no hiding because all the ingredients are so simple.
Well, I'll be honest here. I have not seen any of Satsu's cooking shows. I don't really watch a lot as much as I support a lot of channels.
I'll be real with you. Most people catch his gaming streams before they catch his cooking. He knows it. He knows it. People would rather watch him playing a store simulator than his cooking stuff. And it's don't feel bad.
I mean, cooking shows isn't really something that you're gonna find a lot of people doing unless they're doing it in like an extreme way, where it's it's more of a circus to watch as opposed to
That's not really true. It's more of just cooking is a niche. So the people who are going to watch you are always going to be other cooks. And it's like artists.
Yeah.
Well, it's like artists. There's so many of them. So like some people are going to follow you and some people aren't. I do because I'm his friend and I like cooking. But I don't watch everything he does. I mean, I spent forever waiting for him to tell me the truth about how his cheesecake turned out, and he refuses to answer.
One of the bigger streamers on Twitch is a channel that is primarily a cooking channel. Onigiri. She's a VTuber that does cooking content, and she's one of the larger streamers.
But it isn't for everybody. It's kind of like football, a lot of people generally don't watch football, but it's still a big sport. So, if you see who's following the trend, yeah, that's going to be a big one, but not everybody does it. So cooking is huge because it's international. It is actually a little bit bigger than football, but not everyone gives a shit about cooking. Not everybody cares about cooking for themselves or they're busy. It's a lot of effort. At best, we're just making sure that what we're eating isn't actually garbage.
Well, okay, hold on. I will say, in defense of the cooking shows, and I don't
Yeah.
know if it's a defense or anything needed. We don't really need to build a wall around Elysium just yet, but I think with cooking shows, at least there's a benefit with you can learn how to cook from it. As opposed to somebody doing something like, hey, watch me speed run through this game, or whatever, build a house in a sand desert with rocks and sticks and stuff. It's like, that's interesting, but are you really going to find it? Let's be real. Are you really going to find yourself in that situation?
But the thing that people will watch that type of content for is it is an absolute break from their reality.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch, Yeah.
And as much as people want to claim it isn't, one of the main parts of entertainment is
a break from reality.
A break from reality. It's
and hey, dude, and I'll go right back to the one YouTuber that I will constantly watch, even if I don't understand the language. Well, just here or there. George Sparg, the Slingshot channel.
Oh, George Sparg.
Yeah, I love that guy. And he is hands down the one guy I was like, dude, you know what? If there's one person I'd like to meet that guy, because that guy has just done that one thing, or not one thing, but along those same lines, and he just does it.
He's the big happy German that wants to show you its features.
Yes.
How do you not like him?
Well, I could tell you for some stuff I do appreciate Satsu and Monkey for showcasing some games. Like, because Setsu is into cooking, yes, he did some of the cooking simulators. I did buy that one when it was half off, and I do regret it. But he did tell me when he was playing it that this game kind of has no basis in reality, and if you try to play it like it does, that you're going to fail. And that's entirely why it sucks. But watching him play a kebab simulator with Monkey made up for it. Because when you take that out of it and you realize, yes, it's a little bit cartoony and they have to have some kind of algorithm to make it work, you can forgive things like they won't let you put potatoes or lemons on the shelf. For some reason, they always have to be refrigerated. I'm like, that's only if you cut But okay, game. And I might have ruined them some products because of science. But fair enough.
Wait, are you really? Seriously? Yeah. Only if it's cut?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I have my sack of potatoes sitting right behind my chair, and my sack of onions is a bit away from it. You don't want to have your sack of onion and your sack of potato right next to each other.
Because, they don't really like each other.
Yeah, they each off-gas something that makes the other go bad faster.
But there's lots of things you can leave out of your fridge. Like, there's so many things you don't need. Like, that's like asking me to put a pumpkin in the fridge. You only need to do that if you've cut it up. Like,
yeah,
but
any gourd, it's once you start cutting into the gourd, throw it in the refrigerator.
Same with melons, like you don't have to put them in the fridge. They can wait until you cut them up. But I'll challenge game developers because I think a lot of them have an idea, but they've never actually worked with food. And you're like, what? And it's funnier now. All of a sudden, it's amusing.
And that's what I was just about to say. When it comes down to cooking content, it's strange because cooking content, it's something that functionally everyone should have some sort of connection to. But there's a lot of people that don't really have a connection to cooking, which is strange to me. And then the people that do have a connection to cooking, if they're doing it professionally, most professional cooks aren't going to sit down and watch someone else cook because they're going, I want something that's not reminding me of work. I don't want to sit down and watch someone do the exact shit that I was just doing 30 minutes before I clocked out. So you end up with a lot of people that are cooks, don't watch cooking content.
Yeah, and especially right before you yabba dibba do out, you don't want to have to deal with that nonsense.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Keisho.
It's no shame to people like that either. I actually do think it's how you develop a relationship with food in the first place. Like I think it's different for everybody. You know, sometimes it's the food you had, and sometimes, like for me, I'd say mom was a really good cook, but every once in a while she'd have me help her. It was always basic stuff like, you know, peeling, you know, washing things. And every once in a while, maybe she'd let me have a knife, but rarely. But, you know, having that relationship of understanding why it was important and how she would go about constructing our dinners.
Mm-hmm.
And then having the result afterwards. And it was always really, really tasty.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just, you know, little things that we pick up. And I know some kids probably are a little bit fanatical about cooking because of the cooking shows. Like, I remember Iron Chef too. I didn't watch most of it. Not because I didn't like it. Man, he's mad.
Japanese Iron Chef was amazing. American Iron Chef sucks dick.
Yeah. Well, I felt I was learning a lot more from the Japanese one, but you know. But I know it hyped up cooking. Like having all those cooking shows during that period, like there was a lot of kids that were obsessed with how they were cooking food and stuff. It's just
when it comes to the reason why the Japanese Iron Chef was amazing, it wasn't just that they were often using techniques that you weren't familiar with, which wasn't as much the case with the American Iron Chef. It was the entire pageantry. They tried to copy it for American Iron Chef. They failed miserably to copy that pageantry. Because one of my favorite things of every Iron Chef episode was the story that made no fucking sense at the beginning of every Iron Chef episode. Because it would always have, you would be wondering, where the fuck is this story going? As the chairman of the competition would come out, and he's just being dubbed over. Because he doesn't speak English.
Yeah.
So they have a dub going. And they would also have the sub going underneath it while he's speaking. And it would always be something like, I remember when I was a young boy going to visit my grandparents. And there was a mountain shrine near where they lived. So my grandfather and I would go up to the mountain shrine with offerings of, and he would name a couple things, and you'd be going, oh, is that the secret ingredient? And I remember one time I was going up the mountain, and my grandfather, he had fallen back a little bit, told me he would meet me at the top, so I continued on, and I climbed, and I climbed, and I got to the mountaintop, and I laid down the offering. And that's the reason why tonight's secret ingredient is sea bass. And you're going, what? How the fuck do you get from mountain to sea bass?
You know what you're into.
Whoa.
Yeah, how did that work out?
That was every episode. It wasn't one or two times that the story made no fucking sense for the ingredient. It was every episode. It made no fucking sense. And you were just left there going, this is going to be a fascinating episode, but I'm going to be confused for at least half of this shit, trying to figure out how did this story have anything to do with the secret ingredient? Why was he telling us a random story from his childhood if it had nothing to do with the fucking ingredient from the episode? Did he see someone eating sea bass when he was climbing the mountain? Where the fuck did sea bass come from? And then, to make it even better, was an aspect that, again, the American show failed to do. Because the American show, every judge on the American show was a food expert of some sort, for the most part. They occasionally had someone who wasn't a food expert, but most of the time it was, this is so-and-so of this restaurant and so-and-so of that restaurant, or so-and-so who writes for this culinary magazine or for this agency. They do like the best restaurants in this area type shit. Do you know what the Japanese show had? As they had one reviewer that was an actual food reviewer. Do you know the next person that was the closest to being an expert in food that they had as a judge at any point?
The only thing I could think of is maybe a sumo wrestler, because I know...
Exactly, you got it in one. The sumo wrestler was the closest to having another food expert on that panel. It was actors and actresses and comedians, entertainers of all different sorts, and athletes with one actual food reviewer, which made it even more interesting because it wasn't this ridiculously haughty-taughty high society crowd reviewing food and this is all they do. So they're just saying the most posh shit imaginable. No, it was people that weren't part of that community trying to sound like they were part of that community, which ended up with even more fascinating food descriptions that made no fucking sense. The actress that was constantly on at one point, I'm going to quote a way that she reviewed a dish that I still have no clue what the fuck it means. When I first saw this dish being prepared, I feared that it would be really quite masculine. But then I tasted it, and I found out that it has its feminine side. The fuck does that mean? That's what made Japanese Iron Chef amazing. The fact that it was everything just made you want to watch it more. Because the way that they cooked the food, it was amazing. The dishes that they came up with, they were beautiful. There's no denying that the dishes were beautiful that they prepared and sounded delicious. But there was also always just something in every single episode that made you just sit there for about 5-10 minutes going, what the fuck did this mean? And their weird ingredients were actually weird ingredients, which is something that doesn't happen anywhere near enough. One really good example was there's an episode of Iron Chef Japan that I remember because it was in the final days of Iron Chef Japan when the show was going off air. And they were having all these massive competitions in order to crown the best of the Iron Chefs. So it was an Iron Chef tournament of Iron Chefs. And they came up with all these strange ingredients. One of them, I shit you not, was a mutant pig.
Wait. A mutant pig?
It was this pig that looked deformed, but it had been intentionally bred to look deformed, and it had been modified to look deformed. It was the weirdest shit ever.
What do you mean it looked... Wait, so did it have like
it
an
looked
extra
like
tail?
it was
Or...
like 4 pigs stitched together.
Oh boy.
See,
So it looked like you took
he was talking about the robot pig or the mutant pig, and all of a sudden the FBI was like, "No more." Cut
it
his feet.
looked like they had taken 4 different pigs. They had quartered 4 different pigs, and then they had frankened this pig together. Because the front haunch on the right side looked nothing like the back haunch on the right side, looked nothing like the front haunch on the left side, looked nothing like the back haunch on the left side. It looked like it had just been Frankensteined together out of a bunch of other pigs. So, I remember watching this with my siblings, and we just called it the mutant pig. But it's shit like that that made the show endlessly fascinating to watch. Because first off, the food looked tasty. Second off, the way that they prepared the food was fascinating. Third off, what the fuck is up with these stories? Fourth, who are these judges and why are they saying these strange things rather than just saying this food is really fucking good? Fifth off, what the fuck is that secret ingredient supposed to be?
Oh man.
That's the order of shit. That is why it was amazing. And I highly, highly, highly recommend anyone, if you get bored one day and you're going to be watching reruns of anything, go find old Iron Chef episodes. Watch them. Be confused. But enjoy yourself. Another really good example of what the fuck is happening here was all the characters that they had. Because they had characters, effectively. In Iron Chef, there was... I'm trying to remember the guy's name. He was the on-the-floor reporter, effectively. He was the person that was running around with cameras and talking to the chefs. And as he was running around doing that, he developed his own personality. And it wasn't just, well, we're going to take someone that people already know and we're going to kind of have him in that position, but kind of not, which is what they did with the American. They had Alton Brown, which, yeah, he added interesting commentary. Give me someone new that he kind of talks with from time to time and gets interesting things that he brings up, but have it not just be Alton Brown running around with the camera. Give me other characters that I'm trying to figure out, well, who the fuck are they? Don't just make everyone obvious.
That's the Canadian Tire fucking special right there with them rims.
So yeah. Iron Chef Japanese, so much better than Iron Chef American. And 90% of that is the constant confusion.
Do you think it's just the interactions between the contestants?
Oh, yeah, there was definitely I preferred the way that the contestants interacted with each other when it came to Iron Chef Japan. Because, with the exception of one notable contestant, everyone was extremely cordial. And if they lost, they lost. If they won, they won. There wasn't ever really a sense of anyone getting offended that they didn't win. It was very much oh yeah, shit, your dishes looked amazing. Sort of interaction between the contestants. Whereas the one notable exception to that was Bobby Flay.
Bobby.
Play.
Bobby Flay, the man who
Okay.
can't cook a steak without adding 27 different seasonings.
Oh no.
I think he won half the time for just using Irish cheese. Like, dude, that's just cheating. I mean, it's good cheese. Don't get me wrong. It's
Wait,
really
hold
good
on,
cheese.
hold on. What is Irish? Irish cheese?
It's a
Irish
really nice
cheese
cheddar.
is cheese from Ireland that is really fucking tasty.
It's a
Is
really
it?
good cheddar. It is, yeah. It's a really well aged cheddar.
Is
I
it
give him
something?
credit for it.
Is this something you can find at a deli?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I probably should be able to find it in Chicago.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you just got to read the packages. They'll say an Irish cheddar, but they're just a really nice. They're a nice blend of salt to a cheddar. It's good.
They have really good quality dairy that they use to make really good quality milk. Or cheese, not milk. They have really good quality milk that they use to make really good quality cheese.
Yeah.
And also really good quality butter. Irish butter, some of my favorite butter.
Mhm.
But it's
Damn, you make me hungry now.
one of those things that he was the only contestant that I can remember from Iron Chef Japan that was both. Oh no, I think he lost both times. He might have won one, but I think he lost both times. And he was a really poor sport about it.
Mm.
And he had done shit that was insulting to the rest of the people there. And it was shit that, yeah, that seems really fucking insulting for anyone. Why the fuck did you do that? Like, one of the things that got a bunch of the Iron Chefs pissed off and ended up with some issues between him and Morimoto was after one of the battles, he tossed a cutting board onto the countertop
Yeah.
and then jumped up on top of it.
Yeah. That's stupid.
And there was a definite, like, what the fuck? Why did you do that? And he's celebrating, and everyone's just kind of looking at him like, what's wrong with this boy?
I got the impression that he really couldn't handle criticism at all, regardless of who it was coming from, because he was like that on the American show. Like, you could have absolutely valid criticism for his dishes, and he would just ignore you.
Yep. It's kind of like how he always in Can You Beat Bobby Flay? Always selected judges that were ridiculously tied to him. And they were functionally selected to have his flavor profile.
It's why I didn't really. It is part of the reason why I didn't care for the American show. I was kind of like, if you need to butter one person up to make it work. Japanese one was more interesting, and they would bring on unknowns. Like, I remember the episode with the older woman, and she was so cute, and I think she did win for that one, but it wasn't a product I would have wanted to touch because it had to do with cod roe.
Yeah, but the way that the Japanese show was run, and I think I am going with the cocktail. I've been sitting here looking at my drinks, trying to decide. I think I'm going with the cocktail. But
Looking at your what?
The cocktail.
Remember, I said I'm trying to decide whether I'm going for the cocktail or just the straight whiskey.
Oh, right. Yeah. So what'd you pick?
I'm going cocktail.
Cocktail and a whiskey. Both things.
But yeah, it was in the Japanese one. They did chefs that weren't well known. They did. Some of the chefs were like, "Oh yeah, this is a really famous place." Some of them were just, "This chef impressed us when we ended up eating at the restaurant once."
Yeah.
So we went, hey, would you like to have a go? And they said yes. So here they are from this little bar in this area.
Yeah, I think that's cool. You know,
Yeah.
because I mean, it's not always. It isn't always a good thing. It's like Gordon Ramsay did this to a couple of stores. If they're too small to handle the attention, it's not always a good thing. But for a lot of places, it's the bump they need to just get up there so they can get maybe another location going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially for places like the little hole in the walls. A lot of good places, even across, in our own country, the little corner stores or little corner restaurants. You can't always let the outside judge you. You got to wait until you go inside, then you judge.
Okay. I don't know if I mishearing,
Mhm.
but yeah, if I were to open up a restaurant, I'd probably do it more in a populated area where you get more intersection. Honestly, as much as I hate to say it, but around kind of the how do you say it? Uh, the woke people. Um,
The hipsters.
Mm.
well, yeah, well, only because if you're opening it up and it's an independent thing, you can probably get away with like, hey, we're new. Um, but yeah, Sangs, honestly, I think you could come up with a bunch of really good recipes, you know?
Oh, yeah, it'd be fairly easy for me to come up with recipes for a place. I've jokingly thought about different recipes for different types of restaurants before.
Dude, the Sanguine restaurant.
It's whether or
Gotta
not you want to actually do that,
be on,
because
it's got to be on like a coast or something like that by water. Yeah.
well, it's not that. It's like you could have all these really good restaurant ideas, but then you put yourself in the thought of doing it, and it's like, will that actually kill my joy of cooking?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the real investment you have to ask yourself, because I still enjoy cooking, and I enjoy cooking for people I care about, but the chef scene is a whole other thing, because there's a lot of people who are just in it for themselves, and
Mm-hmm.
then you don't really get paid a lot of the times, and sometimes you're restricted in what you can do, and then it's cooking for so many people over and over and over again, and sometimes it's the repetition itself that kind of kills it.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to love doing it every day.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, hey, you know what? What's that old saying? Make your vocation your vacation.
Do
mhm.
what you love, and you never work never work a day in your life. This is
Yeah.
Yeah.
one of the phrases, yeah.
There's people who enjoy fucking working on cars, and they'll sit there and fucking happily work in a junkyard and sit
Mm-hmm.
there and be like, you know what, this is,
Mhm.
I'm happy with this. No, because I had this conversation with somebody, um, an old trope mate, actora, um, and she brought up, she's like, he doesn't want to do anything other than what he's doing. It's like, I'm like, yo, maybe he's happy with what he's got.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with you? Um, but that was a long time ago.
It it's also making sure that's actually what you're doing, because you can really love a thing that you do as a hobby, but the minute it becomes a job, it's no longer as fun as it was as the hobby.
Oh yeah, well that's where the
Yeah.
true test comes in,
Yeah.
because then it's like, okay, um, do you enjoy? Because even like right now, if I'm looking at it, like I enjoy drawing, I enjoy animation, but do I want to have it as a full time job?
And part of
If
it
I need to
is
pay bills, I'd much rather do the pay the bills part and then have the animation on the side.
Mhm.
You know, like
And also part of it is there's a major difference between enjoying being able to come up with new recipes
Mhm.
and enjoying making the same dish the same way every day consistently. The first one, that's a passionate home chef or home cook. The second one, that's someone who is ideal for working in a restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Because,
probably would drive you nuts if you couldn't change. I mean, at best you can change it seasonally, but maybe.
well, normally you can make specials and things like that. If you get really famous or really good, then yeah, you can have a restaurant that it is whatever you decide to make that day is the food. But you have to be really fucking good in order to reach that point.
yeah.
The vast majority of it will be this is a dish that's popular. Make this dish
Hmm.
every day, 20
Yeah.
times, in the same exact way.
Yep.
Don't change the flavor profile. Don't change the spices that you use. Make it so that if you get it on a Wednesday, it tastes exactly the same as if you got it on a Friday. Because that's what people want when they go to a restaurant. They want to be able to go to a restaurant and know that if I get this particular steak with this side every day that I have it, it will be as good as the last time that I had it. And it will taste the same because that's why I order it.
Yeah, and that's super artistry too, because eventually the cook who is able to craft that meal in that specific way, they're gonna have to teach the next one coming
Mm-hmm.
up before they leave.
Yep.
Yep.
So I mean, even I mean, it would be like, holy shit, you would hope he wouldn't just be like, yeah, fuck you, yeah, I'm out. But if it's like, yeah, I'm 2 months, so I can find somebody to train. And obviously they find somebody who'd be in a level that they could work with them.
And
But
the 2 points at a restaurant are most likely to fail are within the first year and then whenever they have to change their head chef.
See, I couldn't work as my own boss in the chef industry. I kind of do better with like really good bosses or really good chefs because I find the repetition becomes easier when you have somebody who's keeping you company, who's entertaining enough to keep you going.
Mm-hmm.
Because it makes the monotony, the repetition,
Monotony.
it just becomes easier to deal with when
Mm-hmm.
you have someone who's good at keeping you going. I love bosses like that. I can do the same thing every day, but
Mm-hmm.
not everybody gets that. Like not everybody gets that boss alone.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I also found that the customer service too, it is part of it. Like that alone will wear you down.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's some people who are just never happy.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're right, but yeah, in the cooking world, there's always somebody who's just like, nah, I don't like
Sometimes
anything.
they say that you undercook their steak. It comes back and it's definitely one level down from what they wanted.
Mhm.
Other times they say that you undercook their steak when they ordered it medium rare. It comes back. It is a beautiful medium rare.
Mhm. And
And you
sometimes
just
they
find
just
out
want
that they've
to.
been cooking their steak wrong the entire time and
oh
calling it
shit,
medium rare.
Mhm.
Well, hopefully you get your steak cooked properly.
Mm-hmm. But see, I would have a lot of fun being the person that a restaurant chef goes to go, hey, I'm making a menu. I'm trying to come up with ideas. And just being the person that they bounce ideas off of. And that goes like, okay, let's make that dish. I'll make this dish. We'll see which dish tastes best. That sounds amazing. Cooking the same dish the exact same way every day, that sounds markedly less so.
It sounds less.
Markedly less so. Markedly less interesting. Less entertaining. Because to me, the part that I like about cooking is being able to change things up. Being able to come up with a new recipe. Yeah, there's certain recipes that I'll go back to, and I'll make them the same way every time that I go back to them. But that's that dish that I want, and I want that dish again, rather than, oh yeah, I'm cooking that dish every day, 20 times a day, in the same way. Yeah, it's the assembly line aspect to it. And that's where a lot of people end up failing out of jobs that they think are their dream jobs, because they're thinking of, oh yeah, becoming a chef will be amazing because then I get to make the recipes, I get to do this, I get to do that, I get to cook, I enjoy cooking. And they aren't realizing that, oh yeah, I have to cook the exact same thing every day in the same way, every day, several times a day.
It's not like the anime where in every episode they're basing it off of an entirely different recipe. You aren't going from fluffy pancakes to the amu rice. It's not how it works. They're separate restaurants.
Yeah, unless you have... You can make a place like that. You can make a small place where it's... If I have the ingredients on hand, I'll make it.
Yes.
Here's all the shit that you can make where you can request normally. I'll always have these ingredients. But if you want an omelet that isn't on the menu, but you see that I have all the ingredients by looking at everything else that is on the menu, I'll make you a fucking omelet.
Sure. It's just how much can you complicate it, and like what kind of restaurant do you have? Because like you can do that too. Like you can add in like the ramen, you can add in like say the pork sandwich or something. The kontaksu. I can't say it right. You know what I meant. But say you made a restaurant with all four of them. You can do that. You can absolutely do that. But it just, the more you add things to it, the more your back room has to hold.
The more your back room has to hold, the more that your chefs need to know how to actually make. Which is why if you go into a restaurant and it has a ridiculously large menu and it isn't all the same nationality, because you can get really big Italian restaurant menus or Chinese restaurant menus without a drop in quality.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go into a restaurant and it's a huge menu, and they have some Italian, they have some Chinese, they have some Indian, that place is going to be shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no way that all of their chefs are going to know how to make all of those dishes correctly. But
no,
again,
definitely not.
Yeah, again, it's... People have this idealized version of what being a chef is, and they don't realize the repetitive nature of any job. And that's where a lot of people fail when they're trying to make their passion their job because they're thinking of, oh, I love science. I want to become a scientist. Quick question. You do realize that like 90% of your job is writing papers, right?
Yep.
Wait, what? Yeah, you're just going to be writing a shit ton of papers and doing a lot of data analysis. That isn't what people think. And that's actually if you're lucky, because if you're writing the papers, that means that you're in charge of the experiment. If you're a standard bench scientist, you're mixing the same two reagents together in the same way every day, at the same time every day, in the same way, in order to make a product that you're trying to sell. And then you're doing the same purity tests every day for the same products. It's a very different job than people imagine. And that's where a lot of people screw up. And they don't have the internal discipline to keep doing their job and doing it well. And just come up with hobbies. Do things that you enjoy when you aren't at work so that you can refresh.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't, damn near doesn't matter what job you have, you're going to burn out at some point.
Yeah.
But if you have that thing that you can do, and it is that immediate refresh, hell yeah. Keep that. Do that. Make sure that you continue on. That's good shit. But that does kind of branch onto a topic that I said I might bring up during the stream. And we are in the last half hour, and I think the topic would last about a half hour.
Sure.
Which was the idea behind being good at a job in general, being good at a specific portion of that job. And the one that I was originally going to start with is the difference between battle generals and war generals.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And this is an important distinction throughout human history. Because there have been some amazing war generals that are god-awful battle generals. And some amazing battle generals that are god-awful war generals. And then there are some that are good at both. And then there's some that are shit at both. But there's a lot of people that will say things like, well, when you think about it, Washington was an awful general because he lost the majority of the battles that he fought. Yes and no. Washington was a god-awful battle general because he wasn't as able to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat as many of his contemporaries. One of them that was fairly well known and then became a traitor was Benedict Arnold. When you look at Benedict Arnold's record, he had ridiculous victory after ridiculous victory after ridiculous victory. But the thing was, if Arnold was beaten, it tended to be a horrendous loss. Whereas when Washington lost, for the most part, that was round one, bitch. He was able to get enough of his force away that he was still on the field. He'd been beaten at that battle, but his army's still moving. His army's still alive. You got bled a bit. So his losses tended to be minor. His victories tended to be major.
Mm-hmm.
Benedict Arnold, his losses tended to be minor, or tended to be major. His victories, in the moment, were major. In the grand scheme, were minor.
Mm-hmm.
And you see this with a lot of generals throughout history. A lot of the German generals were really good battle generals. A lot of the Confederate generals were really good battle generals. The Union had better war generals.
That's why
go ahead.
No, you finish.
A lot of the Allies had better war generals. Some of them were really good battle generals and really good war generals. But a war general, as long as he doesn't fucking die in one of his minor losses, will win the war.
Mm-hmm.
Versus a battle general that he'll win the majority of the battles. But at the end, he's fucked.
Yeah. That's why I had mixed feelings with the Benedict, and I think that's why I misread the situation. Because, yeah, I missed the traitor part. Of course, you'd laugh at me because I drew Polly a really nice otter with a really nice suit, and I looked up a period piece so I could draw from it, and makes a lot of jokes about the Benedict eggs. So I went with Benedict.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh. But he had won so many battles. So I actually have respect for both parties in that regard because he was a tough one to beat. Like, he was still a tough one to beat.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, he knew you guys. Like, that's part of what makes it... He was a traitor. That is what makes it worrisome. Like, fuck you, dude.
Well,
you lost out.
Again, the thing about him was he was a absolutely ridiculous battle general.
Yeah.
If you had a force that you needed to win at this point, and you had the choice of, do you give it to Washington or do you give it to Benedict?
Yeah.
Give it to Benedict. But if you had to keep the big picture, and whether you won this battle or lost this battle wasn't going to be the deciding factor, Washington.
Yeah.
Have Washington over top of Benedict. That's the best of both worlds, because now you have Benedict going, oh no, I can win this battle, and Washington looking at it going, okay, but how much will it cost to lose or to win this battle? And will we be able to continue fighting after this? That was one of the reasons that pissed him off. There were a bunch of things that he was going, I could have won that battle. And Washington was going, yeah, you could have. We wouldn't have been able to keep fighting after you won.
Mm-hmm.
So Benedict Arnold felt like he was being disrespected, felt like he was being doubted, and felt like a inferior general was telling him what to do. Because again, Washington was an inferior battle general.
Mm-hmm.
He was a superior war general.
Mm-hmm.
You can get to his side, man. Drive that right to
And this happens throughout history.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of generals in history that are amazing battle generals. There are some generals throughout history that are amazing war generals. And then there's a vanishingly rare number of generals that are both. And then there's whole hosts of ones that suck at both. And typically when you're thinking of the ones that are amazing at both, you're looking at the big, big names when you look at history. You're looking at the William the Conquerors. William the Conqueror was a terrifying son of a bitch in battle, and he was a terrifying son of a bitch at war. You're looking at Julius Caesar. Again,
So,
terrifying in both, because he knew when to move, where he needed to move, and how he needed to move. But if he had to win a battle, that battle was fucking won. Whereas I would argue that Pompey was potentially a better battle general than Caesar, but not as good of a war general. Would you agree, Adam?
I don't know. I mean, he was he had his ups and downs, and he had his flanks rolled around. Oh no.
But that's why I'm saying that he was a really fucking amazing battle general.
Mhm.
And I think he might have been a better battle general than Caesar. But Caesar was really good at making sure that when he lost, he was still in the theater. He was still a problem. He was still fighting. Whereas Pompey, he had losses that cost him an entire front.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Quiz says the Union had Sherman that committed war crimes to end the war sooner. A credo that works for America. See Pacific Theater of World War II. I think I said that right.
Oh wait. Oh yeah. The Union. Oh yeah.
The Union had, again, some really good battle generals, some really good war generals. And yeah, it did some fucked up shit here and there. It was war. Everyone was doing fucked up shit here and there during that war, especially. War is always messy.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that drives me crazy is people keep on trying to civilize war in ways that, to my mind, makes them far worse. Because, to my view, the most easily justifiable war is the war that is kept as short as it possibly can be, and is fought to win the war immediately. Because if you drag out a war, more people are going to die. More people are going to die at both sides. More is going to be damaged on both sides. If you hit fucking hard, and you break your enemy's will, there's a greater chance of actually having peace, and having a peace that lasts. And there's a lot of tactics that have been used throughout human history that now they're war crimes and shit that you can't do. Some of them make sense. Some of them, like, your enemy's taken up an area, you have the ability to dam the river to that area. Dam the river. It's hard to fight when you're thirsty. But that's considered a war crime now. Your enemy's short on food, you have the ability to cut off their supply line. Cut off their supply line. It's hard to fight when hungry. That's not considered a war crime. It makes no sense to me. Because all that does is it makes it so that more lives will be lost.
Well, Sanguine, this is based off the same type of people who are like, well, you see this really bad guy on the street who has stabby problems. We could put him in jail, which would be safer for everybody, including himself. But we're going to release him today.
Mm-hmm.
Have fun with that.
Well, hold on. Um, it's and again, this is look. I look at it as it's always going to be labeled as war is hell.
Mhm.
If you encounter war, if you're part of this, not even indirectly, like holy shit, the town is like it. Unfortunately, war is hell.
Mm-hmm.
But it brings up the idea of uh, I think I said it before, but Elysium, where there was a point where the the city of Elysium expelled all the women and children and the elderly because hey, we can't feed you. We need to feed the army to defend the city.
Mm-hmm.
So get out of the city. And they were stuck between Elysium and Caesar's wall. So I mean, this is it's horrific, to
Mm-hmm.
have to go through this. I mean, to at least read it, but
Sorry.
well, no, that's why you really don't want war to happen. Ding.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because yeah, you don't want to be stuck between two opposing walls.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's kind of why I point back at the prison system. Like Quiz is like, they released the guy who cut off the dude's head on the Greyhound bus, and I'm like, oh, that's Psycho number 3. Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, first they were going after Paul Bernard, and they were like, oh, we're gonna put him in medium security so he could go out for a day. Oh, really? And then the pigman guy. And I'm supposed to be sorry that he's dead, and I'm sorry, but I'm kind of not.
Yeah, Pickerman, something like that.
Yeah, I'm not. He I
Well,
don't.
actually, when the game originally released in Japan, it was called Pigu Man.
Nice.
Oh man, I could imagine
It's-
the anime they draw based off that too.
Kind of like how there's constant debates over releasing one serial killer, which is terrifying because you guys know who Kemper is?
Yeah. Isn't he the green? No, I'm not sure. I get them confused. There's so many of them.
Ed Kemper, the co-ed killer.
Okay. Okay.
So, Ed Kemper is notable for a handful of very specific things. So, first off, he was a serial killer, and it's obvious he was a serial killer. The first time that he was arrested for murder was when he butchered his grandparents. And then just kind of kept living in the house with their bodies for a little bit.
The fuck?
Yeah. So, did horrendous shit, got arrested, got sent to maximum security and constant psychiatric care. By the way, he butchered his grandparents at the age of 15.
Mm-hmm.
Then, while he was in prison, psychiatric care the entire time, psychiatric evals the entire time. He was noted to be a model offender. So, he was polite, he was on time, he was extremely well spoken, and an extremely personable person. There was some issues like some people felt like he was being passive aggressive, and that was pretty much it, though. So, after a few years in prison, they decided, well, he had served his time. They released him. 6 years. after he'd gone into prison for butchering his grandparents. So, he goes back out onto the street, starts up at a community college. By the way, he had completed his education for high school and started some of his college, if I remember correctly, when he was in prison. But he gets out, goes to community college to finish out his associates, as was part of his parole agreement. Starts a handful of basic jobs, working for like the state highway division, shit like that. He eventually, let's see, he was released in 69, and it was in 72. He started killing people again.
Yep.
Started killing co-eds at a college that he was near. He would shoot them, stab them, smother them, or strangle them. By the way, he has a genius level IQ, and that isn't the, oh, serial killers are smart. No. This man legitimately has a genius level IQ. He's been tested. He has a genius level IQ. He's known to be extremely manipulative. That was a whole part of how he committed his murders. He was smart, he was charming, he was manipulative. Also, dude is a fucking giant. He is like 6'8". So, kills 8 women. Gets arrested. Gets tried, convicted as a serial killer. He's currently in prison. Do you know what the prison shrinks are saying about him?
That he seems like a sweet, nice man, and we should let him go.
He's a model offender
Mm-hmm.
that shows true atonement for his crimes, and that they see no reason that he shouldn't have his sentence commuted.
Yeah, because he's a psycho, and for some reason, it's like... Phew.
By the way, while he was in prison, I'm trying to remember the name of the serial killer that he was in prison with, but there was another serial killer that was in prison with him.
Yeah.
That was just an obnoxious asshole when he first ended up in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Kemper was smart enough, he Pavlovian trained another serial killer. He made another serial killer go from obnoxious asshole, and this one was an insane serial killer, go from obnoxious asshole to model inmate over the course of a few months with fucking peanut M&Ms.
Jeez.
What he did was every time the guy started causing problems, he would ignore him. He would first let him know that he was causing problems, then he would ignore him, and he would make sure that everyone else ignored him. He would convince every single person in their cell block to ignore this man's existence entirely. When he started acting appropriately, he gave him an M&M. If he continued acting appropriately, he gave him more M&Ms. Like I said, he Pavlovian trained this fucking serial killer to stop being a dickhead because he was annoying everyone, to include Kemper.
Shit. I don't know.
Oh, and I found the quote of that. So, Kemper, he was talking about the serial killer. I pulled it up. It was Herbert William Mullen was the other serial killer. And Kemper stated, Mullen had a habit of singing and bothering people when somebody tried to watch TV. So I threw water on him to shut him up. Then he was a good boy. Then when he was a good boy, I gave him peanuts. Herbert liked peanuts. It was effective because pretty soon he asked permission to sing. That's called behavioral modification treatment.
Yep.
This is a quote from the serial killer.
Yeah.
About training another serial killer.
Oh,
Like I'm
really
with Quiz on what he said, by the way. I don't think all psychopaths are serial killers.
Oh, no.
It's just it is true that all of them are.
No.
Like
most of them aren't psychopaths. Virtually all of them are sociopaths. So the difference between those two, a psychopath does not know what right and wrong is. A sociopath knows but doesn't care.
Yeah. I just with psychopath because of how young he was when he killed his grandparents.
No, he was a sociopath the entire time.
Okay. It's just one of those things like I get that one confused. Like if you're going after prey when you're young, like animals and things that you think of as weaker than you, I could see grandparents being in that category.
Yeah, he did it because he got annoyed by his grandmother trying to get him to stop shooting birds.
Yeah.
So he killed his grandmother, then killed his grandfather. And then phoned his mother to see if he could come back home. She said no. He waited a little bit after. She also told him to call the local authorities. He waited a little bit, then called the local authorities. And when he was arrested, when he was asked why he did it, he said, I just wanted to see what it felt like to kill grandma.
Yeah.
And like I said, throughout the entire time that he's been in prison, every prison shrink has gone, he's an extremely charming man. I don't know why we have him locked up in here. And I'm just going, his MO is that he convinces people he's harmless, despite being a 6'8" gorilla of a man. What the fuck do you mean?
What else do you need?
It makes me wonder who they have that they're setting him up with in the first place. Like, I know I'm taking my judgment based off of, interviews with people who've dealt with reasonably scary serial killers like the Green Mile guy, but like at no point did the interviewer ever think that he should trust this guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, who are they hooking up with these people? Like they should know what this means for this type of person.
The thing is that from everything that I've seen by those people, it's not necessarily that they're dumb.
He's just that good at manipulating.
He's insanely good at it.
Yeah.
Again, he trained another serial killer. He house trained another serial killer. Because a good chunk of the other ones, they have good write-ups on. He's been in prison with a shit ton of other serial killers because the facility that he's held at is one that they hold a lot of serial killers at. And the shrinks there will be spot on with all the other serial killers. But for some fucking reason, they completely ignore the fact that the man who is known to be extremely charming and convincing is being extremely charming and convincing.
Yeah.
It's something that drives me crazy. And it's something that when I was a correction officer, I saw that type of shit as well, where there'd be people that would sometimes say, you know, so-and-so is really nice. And I'll be honest, there were some offenders that were really nice. The thing is, I didn't trust a goddamn one of them because one of the people that was in prison when I was there, he was in prison for dissolving bodies for the cartel.
Yeah.
He was the nicest motherfucker in that prison.
Oh shit! Did he use pigs?
No, he dissolved them. He melted them down.
Yeah.
Now, the question that everyone has, and the one that everyone's pretty sure is the case, is whether or not he produced the bodies before he melted them. Everyone's sure that yes, he did. But extremely charming person. Always polite. If you didn't know what he was in for, and if you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't have thought anything about it. Except for every now and then he would say something that's kind of creepy, like, hey, this person's being a real problem in this cell. You know, if I'm swamping that section of the cell hole and his door just happens to open, that's not on you. And then he would walk away like nothing happened. He just offered to kill someone, but would walk away like nothing happened.
Yeah, that's the sort of person that, like, if I had to interact with them, I'd have the mantra in the back of my head being like, either take it with a grain of salt or just don't trust anything.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. You have a nice day. Okay.
Yeah, like I said, he was...
Yeah, that's fucked up, dude.
I don't envy the job. I don't.
He was one of the most polite offenders in the entire prison. But it was all that paper-thin act if you were really paying attention to what he said and how he said it.
He didn't cook his eggs the proper way. All of a sudden, there's a bloodbath coming.
Or if he found out that you were a chomo.
He doesn't like cholos?
Chomo, not low.
Oh.
With an M.
M-O.
Because he was only ever convicted of 2 murders that I know of. Both of them were in prison. Both of them were chomos.
Yeah, isn't he famous for that? Like, they were pretty big ones, too.
Oh, not the guy that I'm talking about, but yeah, chomos are the normal target in prison. No one likes chomos. Even serial killers don't like chomos.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. I think you've talked about this before.
Yeah.
And it brings to mind that the first instinct that is the one guy who beat the dude who kept watching PBS or something like that, and he said, if nobody's else gonna do it, I'm gonna do it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those stories where, like, I get why he's in prison. He is in there for the right reasons, but I don't disagree with them on it. They're just some people that we hold on to where I'm sorry, it does set a precedent. And
honestly, it seems like it gives them a sense of, I can get away with it and I can just live a life in an area if I get caught. And to me, that's like, no, you should also fear being in there because there is that guy who is going to fucking kill you with a fucking chair.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, I mean, obviously the easier course is, oh, we've caught you doing this stuff. Well, you know, we don't have to fucking. I'm sure we could find somebody who would have no problem doing that. You know, like.
Yeah, definitely not. There's definitely people who have enough of a hate bone for the.
Yeah.
Well, there was the guy that. Let me quickly double check because I think I remember
the one
story,
who
right?
he was walking in the airport and the father fucking.
Oh, there was that one, but there was one that I'm trying to remember, which.
That's the thing that really pisses me off with the argument of like, oh man, I don't want the state to do it. It's like, dude, okay, the state's not doing it. You are not doing it. They're gonna find somebody who has no problem fucking doing it, and they're gonna do it. That's like, oh, but my fuck you. Your tax dollars has been going to fucking paving Iraqi roads for the past 20 years. What the fuck are you? What are you talking about? Tax dollars, stupid. like what the fuck are you talking about? No, if we found these monsters, the most recent one, the guy who the immigrant who Lycan, right? I believe her name is. Oh, sweet Lord, please forgive me
Okay, so
for
I just
if
found the last update on this story. I was trying to remember. There hasn't been an update since, so I don't know whether this has actually happened yet. But it was the man who was arrested for killing his daughter's ex-boyfriend, the boyfriend that sold her into sex trafficking. The father found the guy after. So the father first figured out where the fuck the daughter was and rescued the daughter. That's ridiculously awesome. But it goes taking shit in the next bit because then the man apparently had words with the girl's boyfriend, found out that he was the one who had sold her to the sex trafficking ring. Then, in the normal reporting of the story, the boyfriend disappeared. The boyfriend was then found several months later locked in the trunk of a car that had been parked out just in the middle of a city for months. What had happened in the interregnum there was the man found out that he had sold his daughter into sex trafficking, had beaten the man to death with a cinder block and stabbed him several times, then threw his body in the trunk, leaving it just out front of an abandoned lot.
Well, see, you love to hear these types of stories, you know?
They're proper feel-good stories, right?
Yeah. Like the one where like the Russian dad found out about his daughter being abused, and then all of a sudden his buddy suicided himself with all them stab wounds.
Mm-hmm.
And then dug himself in a grave. Yeah, it is, you know. That's the type of stories I like to hear.
Yeah. When these people are removed.
Yeah. Draw the line at children. So.
Mm-hmm.
Millstones. table turning and millstones. Let's be clear.
Like, I get there's a lot to law.
I'll be right back. I gotta go and
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta go take a look at this toaster because it's looking like it's sparking,
Mm-hmm.
and I just want to make sure that it's okay. So I'll be right back.
Copy that.
It's just the reason I've taken this view, and like, yeah, I think it leads into things like the wars talk and all that. It really is this sense that like we aren't really applying real justice right now. And I can say that, like, we do have complete psychos being just released onto the streets, the stabby people.
Mm-hmm.
And at no point is there any good logic to that, because we do know that they were doing that stuff. Like, when you have a clear-cut case of visually seeing it happening, you have witnesses, you might even have a living victim, because yes, thankfully some people survived this stuff. No, we aren't releasing them over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. I forgot one of the amusing parts of the story. So the murder happened in 2020. Someone apparently carjacked the car in 2021, drove it to a different location, left it there, and then the car was broken into like a couple months after that. So it's over a year now.
Jeez.
And the people that broke into the car reported that, hey, we broke into a car. Yeah, it's wrong, but it smells like death. And that was how the body was eventually found.
Makes you wonder if they would ever think twice about stealing another car just for that alone.
Mm-hmm. The thing is that this story, which is the most recent update of this story that I can find, is from 2021. And it says that he was arrested and he was charged, but it doesn't say the result of it. Which kind of makes me hope that it was a Florida man and karate coach experience. Which, by the way, that's the picture that Adam was talking about earlier, the infamous Florida man karate coach. Yeah, the whole thing with that was... Do you know that story, by the way?
I'm not sure. There's so many of them, you know?
So, if I remember correctly, it was a Florida man. But a mother and father put their son into martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
They befriended the martial arts instructor. He became a fast family friend, was involved in a lot of family functions with them. And as time went on, he got close to the family got closer to him. He originally planned to take the son on a trip.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a karate competition or something like that was the original pitch to it. The parents allowed it because family friend, karate, he was a karate instructor, made sense, nothing unusual there. They found out that he had abused their son on the trip.
Yeah.
He then kidnapped their son, tried to flee the country. They were able to get the son back. He was able to stay out of country. Eventually was found and was being brought back to the area. The family found out that he was being brought back to the area. The father, without telling anyone, bought a disguise, took a revolver, and knew the time that the offender was going to be coming through. He was on the phone, just pretending to talk to someone in disguise. When the man walked by, he spun round, leveled at the man's head, and pop goes the pedo.
Yeah, I remember the image. I didn't actually know the whole story, so I'm kind of glad you told that.
Yeah.
Weren't they? Wasn't there like a news reporter?
Yeah.
Film?
Oh yeah,
But-
it was. The news reporter was there because it had been a massive story when it was found out that the man had abused this boy as well as I think at least one other person. And he was being brought back into the area. So there was a news crew there recording the story of him being brought back in order to face judgment.
Mhm.
And that was the camera that everyone's seen the still from.
And you know what? To be
Pop goes
honest,
pedo.
judgment was served.
Yep. Yeah, that scene is so famous. Like I know, I definitely know people probably don't even know what the story is about. They just know it was a dad shooting a pedo,
Yep.
and everyone's like, I can't judge the dude. No, I'm with you, man. Pat on the back.
Yeah. It was a whole thing. The cops that were arresting him, you could hear them say, "Man, why did you have to do that? Why did you have to do that? We were arresting. Why did you? Fuck's sake! Now we have to arrest you." And yeah, when it went to court, it was not guilty.
Well, it's absolutely a moment of passion. Like it just is.
But yeah, they came back very quickly with a not guilty. Better done this way than any other. Fuck him.
And knowing our luck, if they'd kept him anyway, 20 years down the line, they would have just released him anyway.
It seems like there are certain trends going, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm of the opinion that anyone caught for that type of shit should be buried under the prison, never to leave its soil.
Yeah.
I think we've had enough cases where we try and go lenient with these people and they just kind of repeat.
Oh, the thing is that you know what the recidivism rate is, right?
Yeah.
What that term means. The recidivism rate for chomos is effectively 1.
Yeah,
For
a lot
those
of
who don't know, recidivism is expressed either in percentage or in decimal. So it's a 0 to 1 decimal. So when the recidivism rate is 1, that's 100%.
I mean, in its own way, it's a more painful way to die, waiting every day for the one guy who's going to shank you eventually, but all the same.
I'd rather save the bill.
Right?
One electric bill
Hey.
versus how many years?
Well, hold on. I mean, even at that, maybe that's a workaround. Oh, I don't want the state to dictate whether or not somebody lives or dies. Okay, well, the family member of the person who was assaulted suddenly takes up arms and takes care of the problem.
It's happened many times.
Do you have a problem with that? Oh, no, you can't do that because that person, they should have to be able to stand trial. The fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Again, at that point, I am firmly in the belief that we are living in a time where there are a vast number of people who just have marshmallow brains. Like, there's no other explanation for it. They will make an excuse, even though they don't understand that they're making an excuse for something retarded.
It's one of those silly quotes that I'm probably taking out of context because I know I don't fucking read Greek shit. But it was explaining the goddess of justice and her sister, the goddess of vengeance. You know, if you don't address justice properly, vengeance gets angry and she defends her sister. And that's when you get vigilante vengeance. That's when you get people being like, listen, my harms are never going to be addressed, and humans go insane when that happens.
Yeah, but I don't wear hockey pads.
Right?
One of my favorite quotes about justice, I want to say it's a soul quote, is, let me really double check who said it before I give it though, because now I want to know. Oh no, it was not Soul, it was Smith. Smith said it. Adam Smith.
Adam Smith.
It was mercy for the guilty is cruelty to the innocent.
Like, don't get me wrong. I think justice should be balanced. Like, obviously, if the worst thing you ever did was, okay, you stole the car with the one dead dude in it, you know, maybe you learned something from it. I don't think justice should hold on to you forever. I do believe in a proper reform system, but there is a certain sense that no, we aren't actually addressing justice, and if it's not being dealt with, yeah, it's hurting people.
I'm for a reform system if the person can be reformed.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain crimes that, to my mind, you cannot be reformed.
Mm-hmm.
No.
If you were a serial killer, you can't be reformed. If you were a serial, what's the euphemism that we have to use now? SA?
Yeah. Salsa dancer.
You can't be reformed.
Sorry,
Adam. Well, hold on, because is it now salsa rojas or salsa verde? Because I'm not fully comprehendo on the lingua. Wait,
But
lingua
yeah,
is tongue, I think.
if lingua's tongue,
No,
lingo is language.
lingo. Yeah, see, so you're you're safe, Jen.
But yeah, there's certain crimes that I can understand reformist attitudes for. If you stole something, okay, there's a chance that you might turn honest. You killed one person, there's a chance that you might turn honest. But then there's other crimes that I'm going, no, the risk is too great and the chance of you turning honest is virtually nil. If you were a serial killer, dead. If you were a serial SA, dead. If you were a chomo, dead. Other crimes, okay, let's see if they're redeemable. I'm fine with that. Certain crimes, no. And if it's one of those crimes that it's no, okay, have a reasonable period where you can go through and see if the person was actually guilty. You give them time to do all of their appeals. If they max out their appeals and it's still no every time it's come back, clearly you were guilty, it costs a fuck ton more to keep them. But I did just realize the time. Do you guys want to do parting words?
Maybe we should pause on the parting words for a bit. Give Jen a chance to write back.
Oh yeah,
But
I missed that she said be right back in the chat.
perfect timing. but yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. You know,
Mm-hmm.
kind of. Yeah.
Like I said, if there's a way that they can be redeemed, let them be redeemed. If there isn't a way to redeem them, why are we keeping them? That's the part that makes no sense to me.
Well, at that point, you start becoming a hoarder.
Yeah. Only your collection is the worst fucking thing imaginable.
Well, yeah. Instead of bags of cat shit and fucking trinkets, it's policies.
Bags of cat shit are more useful than chomos and less damaging.
That is true. Although, see, that goes in terms of the cruel and unusual. Oh, hey, did you hear about the speaking of bags of shit, the North Korean bags of shit that they flew into South Korea?
Yeah, because South Korea flew a shit ton of K-pop into North Korea.
Yeah,
North Korea flew a shit ton of shit into South Korea.
basically. That's fine.
So I figured that they were just sending each other their entertainment sources. But shall we do parting words? Because I just realized the time.
Sure. Well, I will probably. Yeah, I am on Sunday with Kefki because she asked. So, you guys should go visit Kefki and keep an eye out for Pat because he's home from the hospital and he's going to be okay.
That's good.
He's still in recovery mode, so he's in that mode of like being antsy because he wants to move, but he's still dealing with the pneumonia, so he's supposed to take it easy because gotta be able to breathe.
God bless.
But he's looking a lot better, and I'm glad he's doing okay. And I told him to give his sister big hugs because she sounds like a sweetheart, overwearing, but a sweetheart. And so, yeah, I'd say keep an eye out for Pat. And naturally, I'll be on my own stream with the 1 Ton Hammer and Terry Diamantis on Wednesdays.
I've never met the 1 Ton Hammer. Is he
One?
related to the 1 Ton Hammer?
Yes, he's his cousin.
He's the Canadian cousin.
The Twun cousin. But Adam,
shit, what is it? Friday?
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for letting me hang out,
Always fun.
always look forward to hanging out with you on Fridays. I enjoy our conversations. And Jen,
Mhm.
it was always fantastic to be able to chat with you. I wish we could do it more often. And yeah. Other than that, you can catch me on Monday and at the arcade, and we'll be playing some games, and you can watch Terry beat my ass in some fighting games.
Copy
Yeah.
that.
It's always fun.
Mm-hmm. And I'll leave off with my standard. If you're passionate about something, make sure that you devour it. Don't let it devour you. And with that, have a good night, all. The zoo is closed.
Night.
Good night.
Yeah, there was.
Like this, and it takes.